Fixing my teacher's wrong view. After the rains retreat, Vasa, ended, it was Katina season. I had the opportunity to help sew Katina robes at Wat Pa Nong Sang, where Luang Por Bua Siripuno was the abbot. In the morning, I went to pay my respects to Luang Por Bua. He grinned, and after I finished bowing to him, he immediately asked, "How was practicing in Chiang Rai province? You probably gained something valuable to share, right? Tell me about it." Then I described every aspect of the fruits, pala, of my practice to Luang Por Bua. The manner I had related it to Luang Por Bua was the same in which I had related it to Luang Por Khao. After I finished recounting the fruits of practice to Luang Por Bua, he said, "Well, you practice mental cultivation, pavana patipati, far away, and return with something valuable to share with your teacher, Acariya. This is how it should be. Those who have attained release from suffering, dukkha, are few and far between. For the most part, there is a fear of suffering, despite not even knowing suffering or seeing suffering yet. The path to enlightenment, nibbana, must pass through this suffering. If you truly know suffering and see suffering through wisdom, you will be able to conquer suffering. Those who are afraid of suffering must therefore continue to drown in this world's suffering." Luang Por asked, "How many vasas had you been ordained as a monk before knowing the Dhamma?" "With permission, Luang Por, I had been a monk for 8 vasas." Luang Por Bua asked, "You told Luang Por Khao about this already, right?" I answered, "I told Luang Por Khao already." Luang Por asked further, "What did Luang Por Khao say?" I answered, "Luang Por Khao rejoiced anumodhana." Luang Por Bua said, "Now that you have successfully taught yourself, go and teach your teacher because he's a very stubborn, bull-headed monk." Nong Pa Bun Ma was the monk who taught me the Dhamma about arise cease back when I was a layperson. Yet he was still extremely engrossed in meditative attainments, chana samapati, and had developed many supernatural powers, apinya. That is why no one wanted to fix this problem for him. Those who have supernormal powers for meditative attainments possess strong views, titi. They are highly confident that their practice will lead to the path and fruit of enlightenment, magga phala nibbana. What's more, the belief that wisdom, panya, will arise from tranquil meditation, samadhi, is deeply fixed in their minds. Although Luang Por Bua had nominated me to grace my teacher with the Dhamma lecture, I wasn't entirely confident that I could give him one. That, and he was a prolific Dhamma lecturer himself. If he started speaking about the Dhamma and there was someone to sit and listen, he could talk for the entire day. He would talk in circles on the topic of the mind, citta, being calm, and the various symptoms of the mind, citta. Then he would relate it to meditative attainments, chana samapati, and then relate that to supernatural powers, apinya. I had listened to his lectures before, and I knew that what he described did not lead to the path and fruit of enlightenment in any way. I had never been able to warn him, though, because I wasn't like him and he was my teacher. Previously, I didn't dare speak the Dhamma with him at all. I was always the listener. But now, I had enough strength. However, I didn't know whether I would be able to fix his wrong views. In any event, I'd give it a try. Who knows, we might be tormenting mates. That night, I went to Luang Pa Bun Ma's hut, kuti. At that time, he was doing walking meditation, jankama. Once he saw me, he stopped doing walking meditation. He asked a few questions and led me into his kuti. After I finished bowing to him, Luang Pa Bun Ma immediately asked, "How was it? I heard that you went to practice in Chiang Rai province. Was the mental cultivation practice good? Tell me about it." I replied with docile humility, "With permission, Luang Pa, I can manage to stand on my own 2 feet." Then he said, "That's all there is to it. If you are truly determined, you don't need to practice mental cultivation somewhere far away. There are many places in our northeastern region where someone can practice Tudanga. Here at Wat Pa Nong Sang, it is suitable, sabaya, for practice. The only thing that is missing is true determination." Seizing the opportunity, I asked for permission and said, "In regards to determination, how do you set your determination so that it is right?" Then he explained about meditation, explained about serenity, and explained about the 8 meditative attainments, atta, chana, samapati. Owing to his proficiency in them, His explanation of serenity and his explanation of meditative absorptions, jhana, were very refined in nature. I had to sit there and listen to him for about an hour. There was no opportunity for me to get a word in. After he was worn out from talking, he stopped to drink water. This is where I found my opening. With permission, Luang Por, you are the reason that I ordained as a monk. Back when I was a layperson, you taught the Dhamma to me with 2 short words, arise, cease. I applied that Dhamma theme to my practice until I achieved pleasing results. I told Luang Por Bunma, I have listened to you teach the Dhamma for a long time. You have explained about serene meditation. You have explained about the 8 meditative attainments. That mindset that you mentioned is like a cow bound to a post. Then he went still and didn't respond. Seeing as how he wasn't responding, I asked for permission and spoke about the methods of practice and spoke about the fruits of practice. I told him, everything that you have explained is completely unrelated to the path and fruit of enlightenment. Where do you think the path and fruit of enlightenment is, Luang Por? He replied, oh, the path and fruit of enlightenment are extremely far away. I don't even know if I will make it in this lifetime. I said, you talk about the attainment of extinction, Nirodha Samapatti, Luang Por. I thought you were already an arahant, because Nirodha Samapatti is the mind's residence, vihara dhamma, of only non-returners, anagami, and arahants. Commoners, putuchana, can only achieve the 8 meditative attainments, atta chana samapatti. They are absolutely unable to enter into extinction, nirodha. Arahants, or those who have attained the path and fruit of nibbana, do not necessarily have to enter nirodha samapatti. Why haven't you used wisdom to contemplate universal truths, such a Dhamma, in order to develop true understanding and true realization? He asked me, what are the fundamentals of using wisdom to contemplate universal truths? Can you explain them to me? Yes, I can explain them to you, sir. I then bowed to Luang Por 3 times and asked him for permission. Now, don't misinterpret this as the student teaching the teacher. I began to explain the principles and methods of using wisdom. I started with arise, cease, from back when Luang Por Bunma taught it to me when I was a layperson. Then I expanded upon the topic of arise, cease by expounding arise, cease in a coarse way, arise, cease in a moderate way, and arise, cease in a refined way. I explained it in a consecutive fashion. I explained how to use wisdom to contemplate arise, cease at the insight development, vipassana level. Explained about arise, cease at the insight knowledge, vipassana jnana level. Explained about the extinction of suffering, nirodha, and explained about the knowledge of the extinction of mental intoxication, asavakaya jnana, that arose at Banpalan during that final day. Threatening tactics and consoling tactics were both implemented. Precisely how they were implemented is a private matter. While he listened to me explain the Dhamma from beginning to ultimate end and describe how the fruits of Dhamma practice must be, Luang Por Bunma sobbed. He used a handkerchief to dab away his tears the entire time. Then he said, I raise my palms together in respect, Vandana. Sadhu to the Dhamma that you have explained, and to the fruits, phala, of the Dhamma that you have received. Then I employed a consoling technique. Luang Por, your perfections of character in this lifetime are primed and ready. I'm lucky to have been your student. I will never forget the favor that you bestowed upon me. While I was a layperson, you gave me a Dhamma sermon on arise, cease. I became a monk and practiced mental cultivation continuously, and I constantly used the arise, cease metaphor in my contemplations until I achieved the results that I just told you about. Now, I have explained the Dhamma to you. I'm imploring you to change your method of practice because the old way you have practiced does not lead to the path and fruit of enlightenment in any way. The old method that you have been practicing is the way of hermits, tapasa, and ascetics, isi. That method is the path that leads only to the Brahma world, Brahma Loka. The more you practice it, the more deluded you become. You cycle back and forth through meditative absorptions, jhana, and cannot find a way out. If you were to die right now, you would immediately be reborn in the Brahma world. You're advanced in age now. Your practice of mental cultivation has been incorrect all along. and it has wasted your time for so long. I have guided you to the path so that you can understand the methods of practice. Henceforth, may you go and practice at Ban Phang Dang, Chiang Saeng District, Chiang Rai Province. You can go any day. Just don't dally. Realize that the methods that you have been practicing were wrong, Luang Por, and start over. It's not too late. From now on, don't teach the Dhamma to anyone no matter what. Even when it comes to discussing something, if it isn't necessary, don't speak. If you are going to speak, say as little as possible, because talking too much isn't good at all. It compels the mind, citta, to scatter toward the object, aramana, you are talking about, and you must think of the words to say. Using wisdom to contemplate Dhamma will not be continuous. Otherwise, I will leave you to your fate and consider it the last lifetime that you and I will ever meet. There isn't much of life remaining for you before you die. I wish for you to reach the end of suffering while you are still alive. Or what do you have to say? He said, If you think I should go, I will go. Will you promise me, Luang Por, that from now on, you will no longer teach the Dhamma to anyone? He promised. The next day, he packed his things for the trip. I helped him pack his things. Then he went and bid farewell to Luang Por Bua. Luang Por Bua gave an exhortation that emphasized, This is the last stage of your life now. Practice so that you reach the end of suffering in this lifetime. Going forward, do not be deluded by serenity or deluded by absorptions, jhana. Use wisdom to contemplate a lot. Then we took a minibus to send him off on a large bus headed to Chiang Rai Province. His children accompanied him to his destination. Thereafter, I went and told Luang Por Bua about what had happened. I told him about how I had tormented Luang Por Bun Ma and employed various tactics. Luang Por Bua laughed heartily and said, That's how it has to be done. He is a bull-headed monk with great conceit, mana, and pride, atta, who won't listen to anyone and practices mental cultivation incorrectly but doesn't even realize it, and won't listen to anyone because he considers himself entirely correct. That year, Luang Por Bun Ma spent the rains retreat, Vasa, at Ban Phang Dang, Chiang Saeng District, Chiang Rai Province. He accelerated his practice of mental cultivation to the maximum. Eventually, he came to clearly know and truly see the ultimate truth, Satcha Dhamma, within that very Vasa. Fixing the problem of wrong mental cultivation, bhavana, for someone lost in serenity and lost in absorptions is not something that can be done by anyone. The only exceptions are the Buddha tormenting and fixing someone with good wisdom who has a good understanding of the principles of deliverance through the mind, ceto vimutti, or someone who has been a past tormenting mate. These are the entities capable of fixing someone deluded by serenity and deluded by absorptions.